Hey guys, what's up? So, if you've just waken up, you've probably just heard the news that British Airways are to cut up to 12,000 jobs. This is as a result of air travel collapsing. Um, Unfortunately, this is just the situation that it is. They have had a number of people furloughed, which is a government scheme used in the UK, where they're paid 80% of what their usual wage or salary is, and this is based off of previous earnings. So they lose a fifth of their earnings, but they're kept within the job role until it opens up again. Unfortunately, just with the situation as is, air travel may become a lot more reduced, and the only way British Airways is to kind of survive after this is they're going to have to kind of downsize their manpower until they can justify bringing these jobs back. This has led to these jobs are going to be redundancies, so this is an initial cost to the staff because to make someone redundant, you have to pay them a certain amount. I think over how many years they've worked. This is just not an ideal situation, but it's just the way it is. And therefore, they'll probably be cutting newer staff. They get a certain payment per every year they've worked, up to, I think it's like 25, 26 years. So if you've been in the company for that length of time, you're likely to be a little bit older. You're likely to be in your 50s, maybe 60s. If you've worked for the company for that length of time, they're probably not going to get rid of them. They'll probably get rid of the new young starting recruits who might have only a couple of years, in which case the redundancy payments might end up being saving them money versus putting them all on furlough. So they've kind of had to do a little bit of a cost-based analysis on this. It says that they're set to cut up to 12,000 jobs from its 42,000 strong workforce due to collapse in business because of the coronavirus pandemic. The airline's parent company, IAG, said it needed to impose a restructuring and redundancy program until demand for air travel returns to 2019 levels. I think globally there were about 4.5 billion trips made last year. And the reason I know that is because I was looking at a report based on like the pandemic levels of certain diseases, and I actually wanted to research like how flights between our last kind of like massive disease, which was the swine flu in 2009, versus the flights in this situation. In 2009, there were almost 2.5 billion flights made globally. So obviously we're just travelling a bit too much and the disease is able to kind of spread. That was the main message from these reports. The pilots' union of BALPA said it was devastated at the news and vowed to fight every single job cut. Again, I don't think they're going to be able to do anything about it because it's just how it is. Either you accept the 12,000 loss and accept that at least the other people are keeping their jobs and getting some payment, or option B, the entire thing goes bust and no one gets their money. IAG also owns Spanish airline Iberia and Ireland's Aer Lingus. In a statement, IAG said the proposals remain subject to consultation, but is likely that they will affect most of British Airways employees and may result in the redundancy of up to 12,000 of them. The company said it will take several years for air travel to return to pre-virus levels, a warning that has been echoed by airlines across the world. Alongside IAG's statement, BA Chief Executive Alex Cruz wrote in a letter to staff, "In the last few weeks, the outlook for the aviation industry has worsened further and we must take action now. We are a strong, well-managed business that has faced into and overcome many crises in our 100-year history. We must overcome this crisis ourselves too. There is no government bailout standing by for BA, and we cannot expect the taxpayer to offset salaries indefinitely. We will see some airlines go out of business." This I personally agree with. because the money to bail them out isn't coming back to us. And, I think even the richest countries, by the time this coronavirus situation is dealt with, are going to be dirt poor. It's almost like you're kind of resetting the world. Everyone is starting from zero. Even those who are maybe perhaps wealthier and have had the opportunity to kind of build up their cash. Many of them who might have businesses, or even if you look at people like celebrities, if they have, they'll have their normal work, which is now cut, plus any verging businesses who, which have been cut as well. So, for example, someone like Andy Murray, who is the UK's British number one, he has a hotel in, I think it's Scotland. That's completely going to be shut, and he's going to be losing money off that for the time being. It says about 4,500 pilots and 16,000 cabin crew work for BA, which has already put almost 23,000 staff on furlough. BALPA's General Secretary Brian Strutton said this has come as a bolt out of the blue from an airline that said it was wealthy enough to weather the COVID storm and declined any government support. BALPA does not accept that a case has been made for those job losses, and we will be fighting to save every single one. So, the global impact. IAG revealed the impact of the virus outbreak on group revenues. In the first 3 months of 2020, revenues fell 30% to $4 billion. Worse is to come, warns Stephen Gunning, the chief financial officer. Airlines across the world have warned they face a fight for survival. In the UK, EasyJet has laid off its 4,000 UK-based cabin crew for 2 months, and Sir Richard Branson has appealed to the government to help bail out his Virgin Atlantic airline with a loan thought to be up to $500 million. Elsewhere, Qantas has put 20,000 staff on leave, while Air Canada has done the same for about 15,200 employees. Norwegian Air has said it could run out of cash by mid-May. At American Airlines, about 4,800 pilots have agreed to take short-term leave on reduced pay, and more than 700 are taking early retirement. So we've got an analysis by a business correspondent who says, "We know the aviation industry is in the throes of an unprecedented crisis, but the announcement from IAG is chilling nonetheless, and not only because of the number of jobs at stake. That's because the company is saying explicitly that it expects the recovery in the industry to be a very slow one, with passenger demand not reaching 2019 levels for several years. The airline can survive on its financial reserves for the moment and take advantage of the government's job retention scheme to furlough employees for a short term. Government support of this kind is very short term. I believe the furlough scheme by Rishi Sunak, who is the Chancellor of the Exchequer, he's the financial guy for the UK, has been confirmed up until the end of June, but that's only 2 months away from now. With a quick recovery, it might be enough to save a large number of jobs. Yet the prospect of that happening is deeply uncertain. It's not clear what countries will remove travel restrictions, under what conditions people will be able to fly, or even if they'll want to. IAG has now made it clear it's expecting the industry to look very different in future to what was the norm until just a few weeks ago, and is taking action accordingly. But unions will disagree, and the company may find itself accused of overreacting, or even of taking advantage of the crisis in order to reduce its cost base. My concern of this is that actually I don't think we should be travelling as much. There are all these diseases that are currently in the background, which have, given the opportunity, could be doing just as much, if not more, damage. I cite the cases of Ebola, which was a disease which was very concerning in 2018. And the biggest problem with Ebola was not only did it spread incredibly quickly within Africa, it was still active in people who were dead. So even the bodies of unfortunately dead people were still lethal. That has actually seen some resurgence within some of these areas, which means we might get a mutation in that at some point. If that happens at the same time this is going on, the world's health systems will be destroyed by it. We also have the situation with dengue fever, which is similar to malaria in that it comes from mosquitoes. It's spread by a specific bacteria, which kind of, when they kind of poke inside you to drain the blood, that's what happens. It injects kind of the bacteria. This can be found in South America, Asia and Africa, but there are talks and discussions about the potential with the increasing global warming that Europe might start seeing these mosquitoes that carry the disease come over here. What do you think of this situation? Is BA needing to just be shut down? Do you think everyone should be paid, or is it just a case of just people have to suck it up and just deal with their ongoing situation? Leave your comments down below, like or dislike the video. I don't mind on this one. It's just interesting to see what you feel. This is me venting a little bit, but not really that much. It's just my frustrations that, we shouldn't be travelling so much as a world anyway, with the global warming and just the spread of diseases. Since I've had one in the past, I am very concerned because I know how painful it is, and I don't want to catch another one because of someone else's stupidity. And don't forget to subscribe.